Hey ladies, welcome back. And today I want to talk about something that I call pop-up power. And that is our ability to bounce back quickly when life knocks us down, both literally and figuratively. So I have recently been on holidays and I have been in the French Alps off skiing. Now, one of the things that actually happened was I had a fall, so I needed to stay indoors for a little while to recover from that. And so it meant that I had to think about doing something differently than what I had planned to do. And that is all okay. So, and I will talk about that fall in another episode, but today I want to focus on this pop-up power. So here I am feeling sore and sorry for myself after this fall, and I'm contemplating what am I going to do. So, with my cuppa in hand, I went to the foyer of the hotel I was staying in, and it was school holidays in France. And so there were lots of kids there, and they were running around crazy in this foyer. And so, one of my favorite things to do is people watch. And so, that's what I decided to do. And I was watching these kids running around everywhere and the parents just having their cups of tea or whatever, just, keeping those kids in the frame so they could see what they were doing. So they must have had their ski lessons and they were back in from those ski lessons. So what caught my eye was these two little girls and they were talking in French and they were just adorable, really. And they were just laughing and giggling and just having a fabulous time and totally in the moment, oblivious to everything else that was going on around them. And one of them had that classic trip, when your toe catches something, but you look down and you can't actually see what it was that your toe caught. I know that. Anyway, so what actually happened was, she stumbled forward, done that classic face plant. Next thing you know, she's popped back up. She's grabbed a friend's hand. They started chatting and off they went. There was no fuss. There was no drama. There was no tears. There was no anything. She's just got straight back up. So here I am in my 60s watching this, feeling sorry for myself about having a fall on the slopes and thinking, if that had been me, would I be still laying there, face down, contemplating my life's choices from the floor and thinking about it for a good minute or two? Or would I have been able to have bounced back up? And this got me to thinking about the resilience that we have in our body and our ability to respond quickly to any of these challenges. And how might we actually go about maintaining this pop-up power? And whilst we actually can't stop the aging process, we certainly can make it easier for us to be able to handle it. And we can even improve the resilience that we have in our bodies well into our wise and wonderful years. So today, what I want to share are some insights and some practical strategies to help you maintain or even regain that youthful bounce. So I'm not saying bounce like we did when we were kids, but being able to handle it a lot better. I believe that in our 60s and 70s, that these should be our years where we're confident in our ability and we have some level of freedom in our movement and that we're not held back by fear and limitation. So You're ready to move on to the unavoidable truth about aging. Let's get honest about this. In our 60s, things really don't work quite as well as they used to, unless you're sitting in that very small percentage of people where you've done all the things right in your whole entire life and you've never had any falls and you've never had any breaks and you've got perfect movement patterns. And there's not too many people that are like that. And so we've all got, something going on with us. But what we want to be able to do is we want to have that springy resilience that the kids have, or something similar to that. So we want this magical bounce back ability rather than breaking. And I think we're all very much aware that these things gradually diminish over time. So it's not just about these aches and pains that we have noticed are hanging around longer than maybe some unwelcome guests that we have, but it's about that loss of power, the decrease in our body's ability to respond quickly when these unexpected challenges, like a simple trip, happen. So here's the thing that research tells us that from the age of 50, we're typically going to be losing 1 to 2% muscle mass each year if we're not actively working to maintain it. So that actually means that by the age of, when we get to our 80s, many of us could have lost up to 50% of our muscle mass compared to our younger years. And if you're someone like me who never valued muscle mass and didn't come to this game till in my 40s, there's a lot of catch up to do. So, and it's pretty significant if we are losing that and we're not doing anything about it. But here's the good news, and it's really, really important. These changes don't have to be inevitable, and they are actually reversible to a certain extent, depending on where we are and what we're starting with. So studies have shown that even people in their 90s can build muscle and improve functional fitness. So which tells us it's never too late to start. Now, what is functional fitness? It is just those things that we do in everyday life and what exercises mimic those things. So if you think about, for example, carrying your groceries, that would be a farmer's carry where you're carrying weights on either side of your body. That's just a very simple example of what functional exercise might look like for you. Now, I've seen this firsthand with clients who have had their confidence totally shaken when they've had a fall, and in some instances taken 18 months to even feel like they could get outside and go for a walk again because they're scared to take those steps. And so what I do know is that, in particular, Margaret, we started working on her bounce ability. And 6 months after her consistent targeted movements, she'd not only improved her strength, but she was definitely more confident in moving throughout the world. So even so much so that she had started planning a hiking trip with her grandchildren. So that's pretty significant because we're talking about uneven surface here. So the key to understanding what specific changes happen in our body and targeting these efforts accordingly is that we need to know what to do. and what's actually happening. So we have this thing called fast twitch fibers. And these are the ones that are responsible for our quick, powerful movements, but they tend to decline more quickly than our slow twitch fibers. So that can explain why we still feel strong in our bodies and we're able to cope with these everyday activities. But if something happens where we've got to have some type of quick reaction or recover from some type of stumble, we're not as strong as what we would have hoped that we might be. So it's really important that we acknowledge these changes, but that we don't surrender to them. What we want to do is we want to adapt, we want to learn, and we want to find ways to maintain what matters most to our quality of life. Okay, so let's move on to talking about building the foundation of resilience. So, what are the things that we exactly need to do in order to maintain that pop-up power? So, first and foremost, we've got to have the ability to get up and down the ground. And that probably sounds pretty obvious, right? But if you think about it, we probably are not practicing getting up and down off the ground, and that we usually am not thinking about it until we're in that unfortunate position where we actually do need to get up after a fall. And so there is this simple assessment that you can do, which is called the Sit to Rise test. And researchers use this to predict longevity. And it involves sitting down on the floor and then getting back up again using as little support as possible. And what the studies have shown is that this test correlates strongly to overall mortality risk. So, in other words, being able to get up and down off the ground is very easily associated with living longer. So if you're not someone who's currently practicing getting up and down off the ground, or you're not able to get up and down off the ground, then it's time to start building some type of program that has you working on being able to do this. So my first suggestion is this: if you can get up and down off the ground, then start practicing doing it from various positions, from laying on your tummy to laying on your back to awkward types of positions that would mimic, for example, a fall. So this isn't just about your physical capability, but it's about building your confidence in your body and the muscle memory so that if you do have that fall, it's going to switch it on and it's going to know how to respond to it. Now, I like to call these things the fitness foundation. So get ups is something that we bang on about all the time. And we've got lots of different ways of getting up and down. And there's all different types of levels and they can be scaled back as well too. So they are, I consider them an absolute essential to maintaining our ability to be able to move freely and easily in life and to be able to cope with these situations if something should happen, like we do that power plant, like that little girl. Okay. So first and foremost, we want to practice our get-ups. Secondly, we want to have leg strength. So our legs are our foundation. They're the things that enable you to walk. They're carrying you through life. They're getting you out of bed of a morning. They're getting you out of the chair or, when you go to the bathroom. So they're definitely something that we need to maintain. So what are some of my personal favorite leg exercises? Squats, for sure. So being able to do a squat, get our bottoms down to the ground. And maybe we can't do that because what I do find is that many of us have started to take a chair-shaped position. So when we go to squat, that's as far as we can get down. We can't get that bottom down any lower than that chair. And so, which means we need to do a little bit of hip mobility work, and start to get down that little bit lower. And, maybe you've got dodgy knees, so that has to be taken into consideration as well too. So we want to start where we're at and then move from there. The other thing is step ups. I mean, I love step ups, and that's when you're going to use a step or a sturdy bench, and you're going to step up and down, focusing on your control up and your control down. I'm going to explore step ups in a little bit more detail fairly shortly as well too. And of course, then there's the simple act of sitting to stand. And so sitting in this chair that I am today, I want to be able to stand back up, but I don't want to use my hands. I don't want to put them on the desk to prop myself up. But if that's where you're at, then that's what you do. But here's what's really important is that consistency is going to win day in, day out over any type of intensity that you do. So 2 minutes of sit to stands every single day is going to trump doing any type of long-winded exercise session once a week. So if you think about it, can you add in 5 minutes of squats and 5 minutes of step ups? So just 5 minutes in total of squats and step ups into your daily routine. And here's what Janet actually discovered. She just started off doing 10 chair stands. So sit to stands. And she was doing those while she was brewing her coffee of a morning. And within a month, she noticed that she was getting up and down from the restaurant chairs and the cinema seats without using those armrests. And this was something that she hadn't been able to do comfortably in a lot of years. So that was literally like 10 sit to stands. But she did it every day. All right, the next part of this is our power training. This really is the missing link. So let's talk about the massive difference that this has made for me personally. So, and we probably need to talk about what's the difference between strength and power before we go any further. So strength is how much force you can generate, whereas power is how quickly you can generate that force. And that little girl who popped up from that fall, that was power. Power. It was amazing. I'm still fascinated by it. All right. So here's what we need to know, that research shows us that as we age, our power declines faster than our strength. And knowing that probably helps us understand how we feel strong in everyday life, but sometimes we struggle with those very quick movements. And so what it shows us is that our power can decline at the rate of 3 to 4% per year after that age of 60, if we're not actively working on it. That's massive compared to the decline in strength, right? So if you think back, strength was 1 to 2%, whereas power is 3 to 4%. But the good news is you can actually train your power. And the wonderful thing is your body is going to respond quite well to training at any age. So here's some power exercises that I personally like. I like jumps, so box jumps. Now, those box jumps might be a little tiny step for you, or they might be a box, or they could be your step. And that's where that step up that I was talking about earlier that I was going to come back to. Actually jumping up onto that step and jumping down from that step, both, we want both actions. We don't just want jump up, we want down as well too. And I'll explain why in a sec. And of course, if you're not ready to jump, then steps, doing those step ups quickly is going to certainly help as well too. Excuse me, just got a bit of a tickle in my throat. The next thing is medicine ball throws against the wall, or throwing it to the ground and then squatting down and picking up that medicine ball, because then I'm working on my leg strength as well. And here's a really nice basic one for you, is quick chair stands. So from the chair you're sitting on, maybe listening to this right now, is to stand up as quickly as you possibly can, but control the sit back down, okay? Step up quickly, sit back down. And practicing that while staying safe can build that power that you need. So Diane is a classic example of that. She was really frustrated. She was walking all the time. She was feeling this disconnect in her body. She was feeling like slow, and she was actually feeling unsteady in how she was moving. And so we added 2 power exercises to her routine, those quick chair stands and some speedy step ups. And within 3 months, not only had she been able to notice her physical abilities had increased, but her whole confidence had changed in maneuvering around crowded spaces when she was out at the shops as well, and even on uneven surfaces. Now, there is another benefit to power training, which is it is excellent for bone health. So that quick force production stimulates bone strengthening in a way that those slower movements that we do just doesn't cut it. And so this is really important for us as women who are menopausal or postmenopausal. We don't want to be at risk of osteoporosis. So we want to maintain good bone health. So I want to emphasize this though, you know, power training doesn't mean high intensity or risky movements. It is about starting where you're at and adapting exercises to be at the fitness level that you're at right now, and starting gently and progressing at a comfortable pace from there. The key is that you have intention behind your movement and that you're focusing on those quick, powerful executions rather than just simply doing the job. All right, let's move on to this whole body approach to resilience. So whilst focused exercises for strength and power are super, super important, I found that having a whole body approach really does make the biggest difference in maintaining resilience. Balance, I've got to mention balance. Balance training is vital. Because the best way to, pop up from a fall is for it to have never happened at all, right? So we want to get into the habit of practicing these balance movements every day. And one of the things I've been doing for years is to stand on one leg whilst I'm brushing my teeth. But I also take it up to another level because on the following day, I change hands and legs. I do opposite legs and hands. Otherwise, it's a little bit hard. Now, one of the other ways you can practice your balance is that while the kettle's boiling, you can stand on one leg as well too. So there's so many ways to practice balance training, but they're just two ways that I fit it into daily life. And that's what we want from an exercise perspective is we want to be able to, for it to support daily life, but we want it to fit into daily life as well too. All right. So here's what some compelling research shows us that regular balance training can reduce our risk of falls. Are you ready for this? By up to 50%. 50%. That's mind-boggling, right? And the beauty of balance work is that you can just do it anywhere. You think about it. One of the things that I love to do as well too is when I'm washing the dishes, I can stand on one leg and do the dishes as well. You don't need any special equipment. It's just you and your body and something else that you're doing. The balance is one aspect of it. The other part of it is our core strength. So our core helps keep our body stable and it helps us that ability to recover from any type of potential fall. And it's like the command center for our whole body. It coordinates movements between our upper and lower body. And it's one of the things that I really do notice a lot as we're aging when I'm watching women walk is that there is this disconnect between upper and lower body. You know, that upper body just seems to be leaning forward. So that chest is heading down towards the ground instead of that chest being moving out to the front. We've got to put the girls out, right? We've got to be just walking like we are upright rather than hunching over in how we're handling life. So, and that applies to whether we're walking or whether we are actually sitting. So, simple things like kneeling, planks, bird dogs, and deliberate mindful walking that engages our core is definitely going to help our overall resilience. Now, there is one other aspect of resilience that I think is really important to mention, and that is the mental component. If you think about that little girl, she quickly got up. But you know, here's the thing about it. There were no expectations from her because she probably hadn't learnt that fear of falling. Now, let's face it, she's a lot shorter than what we are as well too, so she's closer to the ground. So it's probably easier to get up, and we know that. But if you have this fear of falling, any type of fear of heights, fear of spiders, whatever it happens to be, we're going to avoid it as much as we possibly can. And so that fear can definitely hold us back. And so that fear of falling definitely increases our risk because we won't put ourselves into situations where we feel unstable or that we feel that we're going to fall. So breaking this cycle involves building our confidence through practice and challenging ourselves so that we do maintain that positive mindset about our capabilities. And I saw this firsthand with Carol. She had that fall. She was really, really cautious about what she was going to do. And it was really about getting her to feel that she could do something. So We just introduced different types of activities slowly so that she regained her physical ability so that she was able to get rid of that fear that she had. And in fact, she's in her 70s. She's back to gardening, dancing, and she's even gone and done some paddle boarding for the first time. So I'm really super excited about that. I love a bit of paddle boarding. Now, this is what I'm passionate about. It's not just helping women maintain the physical function, but freeing themselves from that fear that makes our world smaller. And every time I say that, I think of my mum, who gets really worked up if she's going out, and she would much sooner stay home because it's an environment that she knows how to navigate. All right, I like to finish these sessions with what I call a move moment. And here is your move moment for this week. It's a simple exercise that you can do right now from wherever you are. You're going to start building your pop-up power. And this move is called the power stand. So you're going to sit in your sturdy chair with your feet flat on the floor, hip width apart, place your hands lightly on your thighs, but you're going to not use these to support you. And if you feel up for it, you can put them on your shoulders as well too. You're going to lean forward from your hips, okay? And then keeping your back straight and pulling your core in, you're now going to stand up as quickly as you can. Imagine you're popping up like that little girl that we saw, and then you're going to control that sit back down to that chair. And I want you to do that 5 to 10 times, focusing on the speed in which you stand up and the control in which you sit down. So it's a really, really simple exercise that is going to combine strength and power and functional movement all in one go. So if there is something we can do to shortcut it, I'm your shortcut queen. I love finding ways to actually put different types of things together so it makes life easy for us. Okay, so this is going to directly help you maintain those muscles that you need for that pop-up power that we've been talking about today. So I want you to put this on your schedule to do every single day. You might do it while you're watching TV. You might do it when you're getting dressed of a morning. You might actually add it in there. You're going to try and be consistent at the time that you do it, because I think that's really important as well. And we all know, I've already mentioned it, that consistency is key. All right, so wrapping up today, what we want to do is have our ability to bounce back quickly. And what we've covered is practicing that specific skill of getting up and down off the ground, building functional strength in our legs through squats, step-ups, deadlifts, sit-to-stands, and taking some type of whole body approach that includes balance, core strength, and our mental and emotional aspects of resilience as well. So my challenge for you this week is really, really simple. I want you to practice the power stand that we've learnt today, plus add in the balance movement into your daily routine, whether that's brushing your teeth, boiling the kettle, whatever works for you. And remember, this is not about perfection. It is about you simply doing it. It is about creating a habit of movement that builds confidence and capability over time. And I'd love to hear how you're getting on. So pop into our free group, Women Over 50, Get Active and Healthy, hashtag ageless confidence, or drop me an email as well too, whatever works for you. And next week, I'm going to be exploring a different aspect of ageless confidence. And in the meantime, what I want you to think about is to keep moving, stay playful, and remember that your body is capable of more than you think at any age. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.